Tariffs against China add up to 145%. That is including the existing 20% tariffs that were already imposed on the
work with the manufacturers identified in the online videos, and we urge consumers to be aware of potentially counterfeit products and misinformation. Authentic Lululemon products are only available for purchase at our Lululemon store.
Have things simply exploded? No beautiful crocodile skin or clever public relations gimmick will save this calamity.
Recognize this style, this bag? Of course you do. For the past more than 30 years, we have been the OEM factory for most of the luxury brands around the world. Gucci, Prada, Coach, Louis
The company has long maintained its products are made only in Europe and the United States, as it currently states on its website.
Yep, that Lou, the daughter of the iconic Jane Birkin, has just pulled the plug on the entire Birkin display, and the timing couldn't be worse. Hermès apparently went into complete panic mode once her lawyers became involved. The word bankruptcy is no longer merely hearsay. It sounds like the next press release is about to be released, and honestly, no one is surprised. Hermès spent years peddling a dream of elegance and exclusivity based on a name they did not pay for. Let's get real. Jane Birkin did not receive any royalties from that bag. She received no compensation while her name became a luxury stamp for people who had most likely never heard her sing or seen her in a movie. Meanwhile, the corporation was cashing in hard, selling a bag that cost less than $2,000 to produce for up to $30,000. And they continued to pretend it was all about tradition and workmanship. All right, thank you. Now the checks are due. If you use someone else's name without respect, the family will eventually reclaim it. Lou didn't just launch a lawsuit. She reversed the situation and turned the tables. Hermès may still retain inventory, marketing, and press contacts. But what about Lou? Lou has the soul of the Birkin. And if she says it's finished, then the emperor's so-called Kelly green cloak was a ruse all along.
Today's show about luxury bags carefully handcrafted in China. Turns out your quote-unquote made in Italy luxury handbag might have more ties to Chinese factories than to Tuscany. Thanks to viral TikToks from Chinese factory workers, the internet is now in a frenzy.
Price $23,000, but Guangzhou price $600.
Imagine the chaos. Executives sipping espresso, expecting simply another day of influencer slides and product presentations. Then, bang, Lou drops a legal bomb. There is only one page, no courteous talk or gently ask. Shut down Birkin production or take her to court. There's no fluff. There was no uncertainty, just a straightforward demand, backed by decades of frustration and every time her mother's name was used unfairly. The moment not only made headlines, but also deeply impacted the brand. Leather workers were told to halt in the middle of a stitch. Production calendars were taken from the walls. Boardrooms were put on lockdown, while lawyers tried to figure out what hit them. But let's be realistic, there was nothing to decode. Lou was finished. There was nothing to decode as she saw her mother's name turn. Lou was tired of seeing her mother's name flipped for money as dirty manufacturing secrets remained concealed behind flashy commercials and influencer marketing.
at Hermès boutique will cost you 38,000 USD. But what is the real cost out of the factory? Today, I'm going to break it down in front of you step by step. First thing first, Hermès only use the leathers from the 3 top-level suppliers. One is called Nuti from Italy. The second is Weinheim from Germany, and the third is Haas from France. One piece of Togo leather, the same leather as this one, will cost 450 USD.
Let them panic. They deserved it. Hermès did not honor Jane Birkin. They made her into a walking logo without ever giving her proper respect. They plastered her name on sky-high priced bags, pretended that exclusivity was a virtue, and secretly moved the job off to distant factories, far from those wealthy.
And one piece of the leather is only enough to make one Birkin, okay? And next, the thread. And of course, for Hermès Birkin, the thread is also the best top level. It's called Fil à Chinois from France. This is actually the Rolls Royce.
Lou witnessed through the entire act. She lived in that contradiction. She not only threw shade, but also destroyed the entire structure. This wasn't a little legal jab. It was a daughter asserting her mother's legacy loud and clear. She informed the world that Jane Birkin was more than simply a shadow embroidered into a luxury purse. This was more than simply terrible publicity for her. This was their bubble exploding in real time. No press team could turn this into a win because when the name on your hottest item says halt, you either obey or crash hard.
In thread. For each bag, the cost is 25 USD. And then the hardware. See, this hardware is called 316 hardware. It's also known as the ocean stainless steel because it can withstand the erosion of seawater. It's the best stainless steel. For one piece of bag, the hardware will cost 150 USD. The edge oil.
Hermès was exhibiting cracks even before Loose stepped in, and TikTok brought the hammer down. That viral video did more than just release some controversy, it blew up the entire game. A calm manufacturing worker in China informed the internet about the true cost of a Birkin. Basic materials and cheap labor result in a total cost of approximately $1,400. Yeah, Hermès sells the same purse for roughly $40. And this wasn't a cheap knockoff either. This was the real deal. There's no dramatic music or filters, just a phone camera and the unvarnished reality. That is all it took. Viewers were shaken, experts backed it up. Suddenly, that produced in France label looked not just questionable, but absurd. The issue was not with bootlegs, but with Hermès bags being manufactured in locations they said they never utilized. What about the scandal? Trust was the key factor, not only pricing.
This edge oil is imported from Italy. It's called heat seal edge oil. For each bag, it will cost 50 USD. The interior lining, it used lambskin imported from France. For each bag, the cost will be 100 USD. And also inside, there is a zipper from Riri brand. And the zipper for one bag is 10 USD. And then the cost of human resource. The French artisans is much more expensive than Chinese artisans. To finish one bag,
About how people were fooled into thinking they were buying history and workmanship, when actually they were paying for smoke and mirrors. Lou's legal team did not even need to dig. TikTok gave them receipts. They did not hesitate to call it heritage fraud. And, to be honest, they nailed it. When your brand sells identity and it turns out that identity has been forged, you are not simply breaching the rules.
the human resource cost will be 600 USD. Package, this is not that expensive. It's 10 USD. So now to sum those up, the total cost will be 1,400 USD for one Birkin out of factory.
You're exaggerating your entire image. Back in France, the genuine artisans, the ones Hermès preferred to feature in glossy advertisements, were not keeping silent. Some walked out, while others began leaking messages, indicating that things were not as they seemed. They demonstrated how the storybook brand was modified behind the scenes, without their approval. This was not about keeping up with demand, but about disguising the facts behind a supply chain they didn't want the public to discover. Hermès sold the idea that each Birkin was handmade in a snug, tiny French atelier by a master with decades of experience. However, once the spotlight hit,
But why Hermès will charge you 38,000 USD for one bag? That's because more than 90% of the price is paid for its logo. But if you do not care about the logo, you just want the same quality, same material, you can just buy from us. Because for our bags, we use exactly the same material, same leather, same hardware, same edge oil.
the entire fairy tale cracked wide open. The enticing story was a costly marketing gimmick that ultimately failed. Surprisingly, it didn't come apart like this. However, greed does not care about legacy. It merely chases numbers. When you allow your hunger run wild, there's always a cost to pay. Big money dislikes the spotlight, and luxury firms like Hermès thrive by being in the background. Their strength stems from the perception of effortless money, perfect books, and a stable brand.
The only difference is one, we don't have the logo. So we don't have to pay so much amount of money just for that logo. And second, our human resource is much cheaper. This is why this bag from our factory only costs you 1,000 USD, but even better quality and
However, as soon as the lawsuit arrived, the hush was broken. You can't pretend to be calm when you're being dragged into courtrooms on 2 continents. Hermès has led to multiple lawsuits. They are accused of gaming the system, deceiving clients, feigning exclusivity, and rigging the rules to purchase their cherished bag. And the U.S. antitrust case did not simply reappear. It returned with a vengeance. This time, it's louder and nastier, riding a new wave of consumer wrath. Plaintiffs claim Irma pushed them to spend thousands on other things before purchasing a Birkin bag. This was not a rare case. This was a pattern, a stealthy behind-the-scenes hustle driven by salespeople using secret regulations and whispered orders. People thought they were part of something exclusive, but they were actually being played. These people were not devoted admirers. They were being duped in a high-stakes luxury casino where Hermes was always the big winner. But now the players want their chips back, and they aren't coming empty-handed. They have lawyers, and they are prepared to play hardball. At the same time, Hermes' executive, Nicola S. Petch, was hit with his own billion-dollar legal bomb. He's accused of pulling out of a big share transfer arrangement, and the lawsuit is rocking the company's financial foundation like an earthquake. This is not a random storm. This is a complete breakdown. Are lawsuits exploding in all directions? That is not terrible luck. This is the system cracking under pressure. Suppliers who previously trusted Hermes on a handshake now want full payment upfront. This is not how a healthy brand operates. The financial world is smelling danger. And when experts begin cautiously tiptoeing around the term bankruptcy,